G'day my friends, Marty Ware here. I've got an interesting story for you today, and I want to talk about how I moved into organic gardening and sustainable organic farming. So this story, you're going to actually learn quite a lot about the methodology behind organics and how I moved into it. Marty's Garden is all about compost worms, composting, farming worms indoors and out, and growing some of the most awesome food around. You can learn how by clicking the subscribe button and hitting the bell so you don't miss any of my videos.
Welcome world to the Marty's Garden Show.
So the story begins. I was a 28-year-old young man. I was riding my motorbike to work, and I was working for a restaurateur. He had a restaurant called Finn's, and he's a very famous man. His name's called Steve Snow, and I grew his food for him for his restaurant and caretaked his property. And while I was on my way out there, a car took me out, actually, basically. And I went flying over the car through the air like Superman, landed down the road, fractured my high femur, and I was in a lot of pain. And I didn't know what to do because I was out of work and everything was just sort of unfolding around me. So I decided to go to college. And while I was at college, I was studying agricultural business, and I was majoring in organics and avocado farming, and also growing Australian native foods. Now, what happened was as I was studying, I got a job managing 500 avocado trees, only a small farm, and it was an old farm. It needed a lot of work, and I had the best teachers, I believe, in Australia teaching organic gardening and farming at that time. So what I was doing is I was learning. As I was learning, I was introducing this methodology and these concepts to my boss, and we had these big trees. They were massive. They were like 22 something feet. And when they fruited, we had to use a big machine to go up into the trees. And it was like something that you would see when people were fixing power lines. And we had a big long hook to get the avocados out. Now, unfortunately, there's a bug there called the stink bug. And the stink bug, what it does is it attacks the fruit, piercing the fruit, and then puts a toxin down inside the fruit. So if you ever eat an avocado and you get a little hard bit inside, that's generally from what the stink bug does. And it was destroying all the crops because the trees were so big. And Greg said, the boss, he said, well, we've got to spray the trees. And I said, well, I don't want to be spraying all these nasty chemicals in the trees. So Mick, the other guy who was the other manager, he started spraying all the trees in the suits, and we had this big spray system thing. We're driving around on these trucks, destroying all the soil profile, squashing all the ground and compacting it all. And when we were driving around in the machine getting the fruit, we're also compacting the soil. So I was like, this is not working. We're just actually destroying the farm, and it's going to hurt the farm long term. So what I did was I approached the boss and I said, Greg, what I'd really like to do is to avoid spraying into the trees. I've found that there is a type of predator in there, the assassin bug, which will eat the larvae from the stink bug and will attack the stink bugs and will eventually knock those populations out. I've found the larvae for the assassin bug in the trees, and if we go and spray them, we're going to kill all the trees. My boss said, no, you can't do that. It's not in the books. We don't follow the books. Now, he was a very educated man. He was a vet, studied in the States and done 2 extra years on becoming a doctor. Basically, 2 extra years he would have become a doctor. So, very educated man, really followed the books. And I was like, oh, look, it's not going to work because it's too far up. Just do it. So what happened was we could only get around about 10% of the fruit was good enough to sell. And look, to be honest, it was costing more than that. So the farm was running out of money, which meant we would run out of a job as well. So I said to Mick, my friend who was working there, I said, Mick, we need to actually stop spraying the trees. And we need to give these assassin bugs a chance to see if it's going to work, because otherwise it's going to fail anyway. And he agreed with me. So we just wrote in the books that we were filling out the sprays, and we were using the extra time to put into the management of the trees and taking care of the trees and charging it out that way. So what happened was, at the end of the harvest, we actually got it up to 30%. And he said to me, Marty, well done. He said, that is unbelievable. It's not in the books. It says that it can't be done. You cannot reach within one season such a big change. of, you know, a 20% increase. So we're selling 30% of our fruit now. We're coming into profit. I said, Greg, I've got to tell you something. The honest truth is, we didn't spray the trees. We let the assassin bugs build up and kill all take out the nasty bugs, those ones that were, you know, the stink bug that were wrecking the fruit. Anyway, he got very upset at me and said, look, you're just not allowed to do that. That's just not really very cool at all. And so, but he didn't really know what else to say, because we'd got the results and we'd achieved the results. So what happened was, we'd stopped going in with those big tractor things and having to go up into the tree and squashing all the soil profile. We allowed the insects, the good beneficial insects, to breed up and attack the bad bugs and bring back, restore balance. And so that was really awesome. And over time, I knew that the trees needed more work. We needed to lop the trees down and actually take half the size out of the tree so we could manage the tree more efficiently. Again, he said, no, you can't do that because da-da-da-da-da, and the books say this, that. And I'm like, but the other farms are doing it. The guys that are progressing, they're getting their trees to about 2-3 meters. They can come in and hand harvest, no machinery, they're not squashing the soils, compacting the soils, and they're able to mulch around the bottom of the trees and get more fruit off each tree than a 23-foot tree. And he's like, no. So anyway, I said to Mick, I said, let's just lop one tree, and within 1 year, we'll show Greg the results so he can see, because we've got 500 trees, let's do one. Anyway, because of these problems of moving into organics, and I could see that I really wanted to become an organic farmer, he was more interested in just keep on just using the chemicals and not really progressing sustainably into sustainable agriculture and creating an organic farm. So what I decided to do was to leave. I left the farm and someone replaced me, and when he was moving around in the trees with the cherry picker and using the pole, he stepped out on one of the branches, fell out of the tree, hit the ground and broke his back. And that's the honest truth. The poor guy, and he still suffers to this day, and he was working for cash money, which is really, really terrible. So he couldn't get any benefits out of it on any long term. I'm lost for words actually for that. So it pushed me into organic, showing me that I could actually get results, and that by what we were doing and how we were putting these forward and working in these systems, using the natural order of the plants and the animals and the soils and the insect life, that we could restore health and turn farms into sustainable and productive and profitable. And so that's moved me into organic farming and organic gardening, and there's a lot more story to it than this. So I appreciate you watching.
Wait, Dad, what's the moral of the story?
The moral of the story?
Yeah.
Oh, good idea, Karen. The moral of the story is steer away from all those chemicals and things like that. Even if you're using a little bit, just use that little bit more time to learn about nature. We need to be guardians of this planet and guardians of our own garden, like I am here. I'm a caretaker for this garden, and this garden then provides and feeds back to me. So we become caretakers of our space. And that's the moral of the story, really, Karen. How does that sound?
Very good.
Unreal. So if you'd like to learn more from me about organic gardening and small space gardening, head over to martysgarden.com.au. We've got courses and things over there. New blog on the way. And it's really firing up. There's also a newsletter where you can get educated for free. And I'll see you there. Bye for now.